Welcome to the Living Your Genius show with me, Donusia Lipinski, unlocking your power within. This show ignites your inner spark and empowers you to live a life filled with purpose and passion. Join Dr. Pat and me as we embark on a journey into the transformative power of your thoughts, inner genius, and creative imagination. In each episode, we deep dive into the realms of self-discovery, practical insights, and actionable strategies to unlock your full potential to thrive in all aspects of your life with grace and ease. Whether striving to overcome challenges, cultivate resilience, or pursue your passions with purpose, the Living Your Genius show is your go-to place for personal growth. Let's deep dive and unlock the power within to manifest the life of your dreams.
Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to the show. I'm Dr. Pat, and I get the honor of taking this journey with the one and only Donusia. But before I start, I just want to say a few things to get us ready for this show, because this particular episode is not just eye-opening, but it is amazingly spot on for many people who've tried to figure out, I don't know, like, how does blah, blah, blah get there and I can't? Or what is it that I'm not doing that's not going to get me to where I want? So this is called The Road Not Taken, Consequences of Ignoring Intuition. And I want to say why this is important. If you don't know much about who Donusia Lipinski is, let me tell you, this is the person you want to work with that's going to help you put the period at the end of the sentence.
I love that.
To change that question mark to a period at the end of the sentence. And what I mean by that is you're going to hear it today in many ways. You're looking for a coach. Why not look for a life mastery consultant and a high performance coach? That's who Donusia is. Journey, look at the journey. Whether you know her as in a former life as an immigration lawyer, or somebody that has gone through one of the darkest nights of the soul that one could get through and has been able to emerge and then emerge in the world to want to help other people. When you hear about her story, which you had personal tragedy, but also, how to accelerate, how to lift oneself up, you're going to hear from somebody who combines both legal, personal transformation experience and the wisdom gained from navigating life's most incredible challenges. And the loss of a child is right at the top of the list. So when you hear the show today, please keep in mind, you're hearing it from a person that doesn't just read about it, but has lived it. Donusia, thank you for today. This is one of the most, I think this is one of the most significant messages that we need in the world right now. And I'm telling you, boy, we had a couple of things happen today and I thought of you like it was nobody's business. I hope you're like, but positive things, really positive things. Let's start by talking a little bit about what we don't talk about. And that is something the phrase you use is whispers of the soul.
Well, first of all, I just want to say how honored I am to be here and to be taking this journey with you, Dr. Pat, as we do this work together. All of our conversations and doing the deep dive into intuition has really been amazing. But working with you, priceless. So, and that I'll just want to say, part of my intuitive process was listening to that little voice that said, do it. And as soon as I talked to Jessica and then I talked with you, it was like, oh yeah, like do it. And so the whispers of the soul, it's like the soul is seeking to express itself through us. We have, in the work that I do as a coach, we talk about the longing and the discontent that we feel in our lives really as sacred language. It's our spirit wanting to come through, to express itself through us in form. But if we don't listen to it, then we're really not living in alignment with our core values. So whispers of the soul, to me, just the feeling of that, there's such calm and there's just such calm and tranquility just in knowing that we have those whispers of the soul, because intuition doesn't yell at us. It's not screaming at us.
Yeah.
There's no anxiety, there's no fear, there's no doubt, there's no whispers of the soul, the the language of intuition. Is that really that quiet inner voice of truth with a capital T
Yeah.
for each one of us that shows up in its own way for each one of us.
And you're going to talk about something that also doesn't get talked about that often.
Oh my
You
goodness.
know, we're talking about that sixth mental faculty, whatever you want to call it. It is a movie that was called The Sixth Sense. Okay. But it's much more than that. It's the thing that all of us recognize that we have, but yet we don't trust it. And we've been doing a conversation, or really doing, a series on what would it be like. But I love the way you've turned this upside down on its head. Like it's like a Humpty Dumpty moment I'm having here, right? And I do think that you can put Humpty Dumpty back if you use super glue. But in the scheme of things, it's the road not taken. It's these ideas. It's the idea that when we look back, if I would have only dot, 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 I would be dot, dot, dot. And we're going to talk about these consequences of ignoring intuition. I just don't think we're aware of them. So talk about the unseen guide and how that unseen guide, comes out, because, there's an origin to intuitive whispers. It's crucial, but you need to tell us again because we really need to get it.
So, and you just said the word intuition, and what that really is, it's that internal guidance system that we're all born with. When we have our five senses, but we have this guide that's with us all the time. You look at look at babies when they're born, like they're acting intuitively. Like they don't think about, should I move my hand? Like they're just acting, they're responding, they listen, they're in tune. They just came in from the other side, right? So they're like, it's like, yeah. So, but the whispers of the soul, intuition, is that sixth sense that we all have. And some people will say, well, I'm not very intuitive. Well, if you're going to tell yourself that you're not very intuitive, right, then your subconscious is going to take that in, but it's always there. So that what I call my inner guidance system really is the voice of the soul. It's that inner power that connects me to you, to everything that's in the universe. Some people call it God, right? Some people call it the soul. Some people call it the universe, but we all have that. And when we can learn to tune, it's like changing the channel on our TV, like tuning into the frequency of whatever we want to watch. But if we don't know how to tap into that, if we don't know that we
Yeah.
can, if we learn to ignore it, we suffer the consequences of ignoring it. Dr. Pat, I was looking at some of the people in this lifetime who have listened to their intuition. I mean, like, what would we do if Oprah had never listened to her intuition, right? And she talks about it. She says intuition is what's been a life changer for her. You and I were talking the other day, and you mentioned Scully. Wasn't he the airline pilot?
Yes, yes, Sully. Yeah, the pilot that landed that plane in the Hudson with 155 souls in it, and everybody lived.
And so
Everybody,
people,
right?
yeah, but people might say, well, I mean, how was that intuition? Like,
Oh,
did he have even time to think about intuition when he was doing this? Like,
I love that you brought him up because there's a movie about him and it's called Sully. You should watch the movie because you'll see this. There's a board that investigates this, and he went through a horrific time. He really did. I mean, yeah, people praised him, but they were going to really hang this whole thing on him. I mean, he was on the verge of really being prosecuted, right?
mm,
And there's a moment in the meeting, the investigation, where he hears something and he says, "Oh, well, how long did it take them in the simulation?" And so they show the clip back of him and the co-pilot in the cockpit, and them being fed, well, you could land at LaGuardia and you could land here, you could land, but you could watch him literally say no, no, no. Because how did he make that
mm.
decision and intuitively know, I've landed on the water before, I can land this? You see, that's one of those high profile cases. But let's talk about every day in all of our lives, right?
Yeah.
Oprah's one of them. Einstein's another one. But there are so many people that you hear stories from.
You and I, Dr. Pat, right? That moment of intuition, driving down the highway and I'm going 65, 70 miles an hour, and it's raining outside, and there's a lot of traffic. And for some reason, I happen to look in the rear view mirror. Like, did I think about, should I look in the rear view mirror? I happen to look in the rear view mirror, and I see this car, this white car barreling towards me. And there's something that happens in that moment, right? You can't analyze it because there isn't any paralysis analysis. But I'm seeing this car come fast at me, and I'm thinking, okay. And there's this moment. All right, so what's the best course of action? And slowing down, and so that I wouldn't hit the other car, maybe. And if I got hit, maybe I wouldn't get hit so badly, going into the other lane and maybe causing a lot of other cars to get hit. And in that moment, I just thought, no, just take a deep breath. And I don't, let me, no, I maybe didn't say take a deep breath, but you don't even think about it. I remember I slow down gently, and then I see the car behind me veer off into this ditch.
Oh, uh-huh.
But she was fine. She had a moment. In fact, I was in touch with her afterwards just to let her know what had happened. But the way that the universe had aligned everything up, there just happened to be a medical technician there at that very moment, that was able to, I mean, everything had lined up. She was fine, right? But look at that moment of looking in the rearview mirror saved my life, probably saved some other people's lives as well. The only one that was injured was her car, and then she suffered some injuries. But man, like you look at those moments, and I'm sure that you've had moments like that, Dr. Pat, where you were that split second, right?
Yeah.
Or in your life career and the work that you're doing in the world now and the work that I'm doing right now, that still small voice that what if we hadn't listened to it? And
Well,
what about those?
I, you and I are here for one reason and one reason only. In 2003, and I believe it was around this time frame, in 2003, I dialed a wrong phone number because I transposed things. And I dialed a phone number, a wrong one, looking for a man named Tracy. And no Tracy here. I dialed into a brand new internet only station, but I didn't hang up. Why didn't I hang up? I am from New York, and you get a wrong number, but I didn't hang up. And I said, "Oh, you don't have Tracy." And they said, "Now you got to trust. This is where your trust is going to get tested, right?" This sounds like a punk joke, but we have somebody named Tacey. And I'm thinking, "Oh, what?" And I said, "Well, that's really interesting. So can I talk to him?" And they said, "No, Tacey is a woman." Yes. Within 10 minutes, I spoke to Tacey Trump. No kidding. That is her name. And I swear, I thought I was being punked at the time. But here she was. And within around a 10 or 15-minute period, I knew it was right for me. I knew to pull out a credit card. I knew I was going to pay a lot of money on the internet in 2003. And by the way, nobody was on the internet listening in 2003. And I've never looked back. But you and I wouldn't be here.
That's
Had I
right.
hung up that phone, I don't know. Would the universe had gotten me here? I'll never know. But let's talk about this for a minute. What if I'd have went to fear? What if I'd have went to anger? Like, seriously? What if I would have went to anxiety? Oh, wait, how about doubt? What would have happened?
Or your new word, Dr. Pat, thought, which is a combination of fear
And
and
doubt.
doubt. Watch out, we might get that one in the dictionary. Exactly. What if you had all the things, like if you hadn't listened? And we don't have to think about, well, would you have gotten here now? You would have taken a different journey, a different path at some way. And because you know what? Intuition, that still small voice of truth, doesn't really let you off the hook, right? It can be very persistent in its voice and saying, Dr. Pat, Dr. Pat, I'm calling you, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I started to walk away, and let's just talk about that, because this is a calling for me. This is not a career. This is a calling. Some people want me to talk about it as a career. This is a calling. And it is some days I know the direction we're going and some days I don't, but I never question the fact that this is a pathway that has been laid out for me. And my job is to figure out how to follow the pathway every day. But this is what we want to help people with today, because you're getting messages 24/7 and they come to you in the strangest way. This morning, Jessica and I were on a call with one of our new hosts that will be joining us. And we have been really struggling a little bit with getting back to our roots. And when I launched the network, there were 2 words that I used to launch the network in the first flyer that I ever put out, right? And that was in 2009, right? And 10. And it was accelerated expansiveness. And that has been, and then we got away from it. We stopped using it. I don't know why, but those 2 words came. This morning on this call, we're in the middle of a conversation with somebody I just met. What do you think the 2 words were that came out from her? So
Accelerated expansiveness by any chance?
exactly. So let's talk about what happens when we keep getting the message over and over and we don't listen, because that's what this show's about. It's like, what if you don't listen?
So my mentor, Mary Morrissey, has a wonderful saying that says, intuition without action is merely entertainment,
She's right.
right? If you don't act on your insight, your intuition is just, it's like, all right, cool, right? But what does it do, right? Where does it get you? And so in the work that I do, we have like a 5-part test to really see if the vision or whatever's coming to you in terms of creating a life plan is really worthy of your life force, right? But it's the alignment of your core values. And so when you're not in alignment with your core values, people become disconnected. We talk about paralysis analysis, right? Poor decision making, overthinking. And so there's people just don't have the clarity when they tune off the fact that they actually have access to this other power that's within them, that's there, it wants them to succeed, right? We were put here like that, wants us to succeed. And yes, there's going to be challenges. And just because we listen to our intuition and we take action doesn't mean that life is going to just like float. No, no, obviously that's not going to happen. But when we don't listen to our intuition, that's where the disconnect, our relationships suffer, the gut. I mean, physically, we can have physical like gut, be sick to our gut. People talk about having butterflies in their stomach. The other day I heard, what about the bees? Right? What about the
Yeah.
bees flying around, right? Like butterflies in your stomach could be a good thing. It's like but the awareness, Dr. Pat, the awareness of like, what is that voice telling me? Right? Being curious. What is it? What is it trying to tell me? And then like taking that pause, right? But not listening to your intuition really is a life that where there isn't the fulfillment of what you would absolutely love. And we just
Yeah.
kind of like go on and go on. That's been my experience of not. Oh, let me just say the biggest one, Dr. Pat, because I don't,
Yes,
this is
please.
like, there's 2 of them actually. One is regret. Oh my goodness, regret. And the other one, Dr. Pat, is procrastination. But
Yeah.
regret, I have some, I was thinking about, well, so what regrets do I have? And I'm thinking, well, most of my regrets I've made peace with, right? Because
Yeah.
you can't like have that stress of not of like living in that regret, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, the shame, the guilt, all of that. And then something happens in your life and you realize how precious life is, right? That life is short. It's like, what are you doing with it?
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned regret because
I'm
that's the
glad you mentioned it, because I want to just leave everybody with this comment, and that is, regret by itself has an accumulation energy. And I
oh, I
want to
know.
talk about that for a minute. What do I mean by an accumulation energy? Well, there are some emotions we feel that can dissipate. They can dissipate. Joy, you can dissipate joy in a nanosecond with fear. That, right?
Yep.
But regret is like doubt. It's a little bit more insidious. They're really smart energies, right? So what happens with the regret? It starts to percolate. If you don't do something about it, like you just said, it will percolate. And you want to be careful, because resent, right? Resent turns into regret, turns into resentment. And if that happens, you're in a whole different ball game of stuckness.
Turns into anger,
Turns into anger. And
affects your
that then starts to permeate every aspect of your mindset because you can't shake it. You can't shake that boss that didn't give you the promotion in 1982. Like what? You remember the date and the year and like what the boss looked like, and that's the story you tell every time you're talking about your career.
and
Or yeah.
and if only I had done, if only the if onlys, right? Like if I had only
Oh,
listened to my intuition and or if I had only like all the ways that I could have responded and I didn't, but it's like but it's going into that mindset of man, I wish I would have told him what I thought about him and whatever it is, right? But well, and that's not even the voice of intuition because the voice of intuition is that still small voice that would have helped you
mhm.
respond in a way if you had taken the step back in a way that was healthy, that would help you heal from whatever it was that had happened. And I interrupted you, Dr. Pat. I
No,
apologize.
you're absolutely right. Because it leads me to the next question I want to ask you. And that is, let's go back to Oprah for a minute. And I'd love for you to talk about this because this is totally in line with regret. And it is this idea of trust your instincts, intuition doesn't lie. Let's talk about that because if we can harness the energy of that, then we go down the feeling of regret, disappointment, and ignoring early warning signs. I mean, how many times have you either been in a relationship or met somebody and you just are like, "Ugh," right?
Oh,
Right? You feel it, you know it, but you don't do anything about it. Um, our logic or something in the room would say, "Oh, I really got to be friends with this guy. Why? My boss likes it." Whatever that is. But inside, you're like dying. I mean, let's talk about this and talk about how we would induce to ourselves stress, confusion, and it goes against the inner guidance. You know, Danusia, let me ask you this. A lot of people believe that you only get one shot at intuition. That's not my experience. I have found that the energy of intuition just keeps coming back until we get it right.
oh, and it comes back in so many different ways and in so many different parts of our life. So the importance of listening to intuition in our health, for example, right? Something doesn't quite feel right in our health, right? And what if we just ignore that, right? What about in our relationships? I love the example that you gave. You meet somebody or you're in a relationship and it just doesn't feel right, but you don't leave it, right?
Exactly.
And I had one of those experiences where I don't know, but it was a part of my learning process, right? But having the awareness of this isn't healthy, like just again in relationships, in the work that you're doing in the world, right? How many times do we know? Let me tell you this because this was really
Yeah.
happened recently. Somebody that I was talking to recently, and we were talking about where she's been, and she's had some trauma in her life, and I met with her a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about what she might really like to do, right? Her face lit up. She went home and she talked to her spouse, and she said after she shared what she would really love to do, listening to her intuition that has been calling her, and she knows it has been calling her for a long time. She said, I felt like I lost 50 pounds, right? So the power of listening to the intuition as opposed to ignoring it, where she felt the heaviness, right? And she felt that the weight of not living the life that she would love. And so when we don't listen to our intuition, that's when we get into trouble. And the people that we run away from, situations, right? Walking into a room, we feel the energy because we are energy, right? Some people we love immediately or we like immediately, and others, like you said, we have be careful, caution, listening to that, because that also was the voice of intuition, right?
Yeah.
And then doing something with it. And I don't know if I answered your question or not, because I
Yes, you
wouldn't.
did. I mean, what this is what I love about the shows we do. We're really hitting some key points, but the other thing is we're giving you information. And there, let's go back to the episode title because this is Road Not Taken: Consequences of Ignoring Intuition. I have a little dilemma. Let me tell you the dilemma. I was on a call with one of our clients yesterday who is decided to work with some kind of other PR firm in addition to, and I love that. I encourage people to grow. But we get on the call, and the first thing we've never met this person. and we get on the call, and the first thing out of their mouth is bad mouthing us.
What?
Now, but this is a strategy. This is what people do. And I want everybody to be aware of this because it goes on in your life. How many people in your close circle of friends, right, that you walk into and their only defensive mechanism is to
Wow.
badmouth Mary so you can hold them in a higher order. See, this is what we do. But your intuition, your gut feeling will help you discern, because that's what we're going to talk about. It's going to help you discern. And so, we're having a conversation, and immediately Jessica and I were very clear. This is not our first rodeo. If I had $1 for everybody that wanted to say something bad about me or my team, oh my God, we wouldn't even be here today. I would be taking everybody to Hawaii for a month. But you learn things. I was listening to Joel Osteen the other day, and he was talking about how difficult it was for him to step into his father's shoes. But he talked about he knew it was his time to do that. What does he mean by he knew? What does that mean? Like, did he know? No, he didn't know logically, but he felt it. And he ran into backlash. He heard people talk. See, so we have to trust our own intuition despite what shows up in the environment. And this is important. Now, my dilemma is I've reached out to the client because I feel obligated to have a conversation about it to protect her. Then the other part of me says, no, that's not your job. So intuition isn't always as clear. Sometimes you get multiple sets of information, but in the end, we have to do what you said. We have to be aligned with our values.
Exactly.
And then difficult decision making. Why don't you touch upon that one?
It's that still small voice of truth that doesn't have anxiety, right? And then to discern, having to do with the discernment. Which is it? And that's where you do the reflection.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this when we come back. It doesn't matter who you listen to, Oprah, Einstein, it doesn't matter what news channel you're on or what television channel, any television series you watch now, you're going to be able to find intuition in more than one place in the whole range of it. I mean, there's no question about it. You're going to find it. You've heard me talk about sports. 2 days ago, Caitlin Clark was highlighted in basketball for a pass that she did. And I thought about you because this was not a practiced pass. This was a highly intuitive pass to one of her players. And if you saw the look on the player's face, Donusia, it was like, what? That ball's coming to me. And in 3 seconds, you watched intuition perfection. You watched it between Caitlin Clark, and we could talk more about this. In that moment, an unexpected, beautiful pass. You can get the memes and all the crazy stuff that you do. Emily's going to have to help me with this, but you can look it up and watch that pass, and you could see what was the result. Bingo, right through the hoop. Now, why can they do it? And why are you sitting here listening and thinking, I can't? When we come back, Donusia is going to walk us through knowing without knowing. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Before we go ahead, look, I think it's important what we're talking about, Donusia, but bottom line for me is, how do people work with you? I love your website name, because a lot of people don't get this. They don't get that coaching and working with a coach could really be the way that you do it. So how do people go to your website? How do they find out about you?
Yes. So my website is Grace and Ease Life Coaching. It helps people transform their lives with grace and thrive with ease. And perhaps the best way to get in touch with me is just to send me a text message at 843-340-5083. And if somebody would love to delve more deeply into intuition and what it can mean for them in their lives to really get in touch with that power that they have within them, to just send me a text message saying I'm in with their name and their email address, and I'll get in touch with them. And I would be happy to schedule a complimentary hours worth of a discovery session again, just to really get people in touch with who they are and what they're doing. So
Yeah, I love it. Now, look, I want to say this. I am not saying, and you're not saying, when we say embracing the unknown, no, knowing without knowing, we are not saying that you don't have to prepare. Let's go back to Oprah. Oprah prepared every day in her life to take the leap of faith that she took and the leaps of faith that she took. She prepared, she practiced, she overcame major hurdles, major obstacles in her life. Most people that you see that you've referenced today have done the same. Einstein, everybody that I've mentioned, Caitlin Clark, it doesn't matter who you point to, who your favorite person, Taylor Swift, come on. Come on, y'all Swifties. Taylor Swift.
yeah.
Now, how many of you were hating the Taylor when she first started singing? Okay, come on. How many? Raise your hand. But you're not now. Why? Because you watched her grow. You watched her perfect her art. You watched her show up in the world despite all the batting on her. You saw her write songs about her exes. Don't you love that? I would love to hire her to do that for me. But in the world we live in, there's a turnaround. How did a Taylor Swift know to take back control of her music? How did she know that she could do that? How did she brilliantly do it? Think about the people in your immediate circle. Whether you're a career scientist, whether you're an artist, it doesn't matter. But you know people that embrace the unknown. We are not saying in this segment, you don't have to prepare. You can't sit up there and do the Taylor Swift tour without a lot of practice. There's no way that's not going to happen. But let's say you do have the tools and you practice and you still don't trust. Let's talk about that if we could.
Yeah.
Coach.
Yes, Dr. Pat. So, I mean, really, the beginning point for all of this is just number one, to own the fact that we have this inner power within us, this inner GPS system, this God positioning system, right? That we have this power within us. So it's really the awareness is the starting point. The other part is trusting that the voice that we hear is the voice that's the guide for us. Getting in touch with people say something just happened out of the blue, right? It's like, well, where's the blue, right? But that's become like a saying for people that incredible things happen. They all line up, and it doesn't just happen. I mean, sometimes it could just happen like that, but it's usually the confluence of events before that help that all to happen. And so people that keep their first of all can listen, that know how they take in intuition, how they hear that voice. Some people, how do you hear it, Dr. Pat?
Yeah, I think we're all different. I mean, people always ask me, oh my God, you do talking, talking, talking. You must hear the voice. And I stopped to think about that for a minute. You know, I am an introvert. Okay, we've talked about that a lot, but I really am an introvert. And so talking isn't necessarily for me to hear the voice, but I see things. So I see pictures. I saw the design of the network in 2008, the technological design before it was designed. And then I had to act on it, right? I may, I'm learning different. So I have a learning disability. So here's my learning disability, which isn't anymore. I just have to use that language where people can't hear what I'm saying. When you speak, I don't hear your words. So journaling for somebody like me is harder. I don't see your words. I see the image. So when you say 2 or 3 sentences, by the time you're done, I have a complete picture of what that is. Now, chances are I may be right. Maybe it's a red house. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But now when I get it, I get it. It's like this morning on a call where a person I just met reminded us of how we got here. And that is by talking about what we do to accelerate the expansiveness of your vision and your mission. So everybody's different, aren't they?
It is, but it's being aware of how people, like, just being aware of the signals and the signs. So
Yes.
awareness is really where it is. I love the power of threes. And I pay attention when I hear something 3 times or see the word 3 times, or
Yes.
if an event happens to be like I had 3 car accidents that could have been serious. It's like I woke up, like, pay attention to that. But it doesn't even have to be so dramatic. Synchronicities, right? Just like you were talking about this morning or yesterday, right? The accelerated expansion, right?
Yeah.
Like, or expansiveness, like there was that synchronicity, that moment. It's like, grace and ease, life coaching, right? Grace and ease. Whenever I hear words, people say ease and grace or grace and ease. I was doing an I Ching exercise with my sister yesterday, and the word grace and eloquence came up. And I'm thinking, all right, for me, those kinds of experiences, Dr. Pat, are an affirmation. It's a validation of what we're getting. And so how do people tap into, and how do they, first of all, it's awareness. The second is just like trusting that voice. And the more we open up to what that looks like or what that feels like, and when we have it validated, then we know. But tuning in, and sometimes we might feel like, is this just my emotion? Like, I'm so excited about something, and then you take a step back and it's like, was that really the right thing? But that's where the discernment comes in,
Yeah.
right? This is what this, I was like, yes, for this, but when you take a step back and listen to that still small voice and know that it's the voice of truth, and it doesn't have fear, it doesn't have anger, it doesn't have anxiety, it doesn't have doubt. Fear and doubt. It doesn't have that. It's like there is, and there is only one truth. So trusting, the first thing is just really trusting that voice. When you feel something in your body that doesn't feel right, I go into my closet. It's like, what am I going to wear? Like, what do I feel? So it's the body feeling. It's what you like in the body, what you hear. But and I'll take out sometimes 3 outfits, and it's like, but Danusha, what's wrong with you? You're so indecisive. It's like, no. I haven't tapped in. I haven't taken the time to say, what do I feel? How do I feel? And colors and words, they all have energy.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? So it's really
Well,
about
it's
taking that
like you
step back.
commented when we started the show. I mean, I've had listeners say, "What do you do? Coordinate your color wardrobe with
Oh,
your," and I'm like, because Mark and I will show up, and we don't talk to each other, but whatever we do, we show up. We got the same color on. It's like today, orange, right in my closet. Why did I pull the orange? Because just a way. After a while, you allow intuition to guide
yes.
you. You don't think about it. You go through a process and you allow it. And I want to ask you about this because this is super important. We talked about whispers earlier in the show. I
Mm.
want to talk about whispers of intuition now. You asked me an interesting question and I didn't answer you, but then I got an answer as I'm sitting here. When I'm outside, I don't care what I'm doing. I honestly don't know how this has ever happened. The way the universe gets my attention is through dragonflies. I have an unusual relationship with dragonflies. I can put my hand out and a dragonfly will land on it. And that happened yesterday out of the blue, right?
Out of the blue.
Dragon dragonfly in the middle of helping me make a decision, but I didn't it wasn't like, oh, let me help. That wasn't it. But that moment of connection with that dragonfly gave me enough grace and ease in that moment to clear the chatter. And what do you think showed up? The solution, the answer. So talk about the whispers of intuition, because honestly, you could have heard a pin drop out there with the dragonfly.
Mm. So for me, again, it's having the awareness, right, of how it shows up for us, right? So the whispers of intuition, I know that when I see a butterfly, because butterflies are really transformative, they're powerful symbols. When you feel an emotion, when you see the beauty in nature, intuition, you're opening up the channel to be a receiver, right? So intuition can show, for me, pennies, right? When
yeah.
after my son Colin died, I was told that whenever I saw either a cat or a big cat, and I've got two of them, but I saw a big cat or pennies, that was Colin just letting me know that he was around.
Oh,
I have
mm,
found pennies in the most amazing places at the times that I most needed to see them. Powerful symbols. And I always pay attention when I see a penny, and then there's like gratitude, like thank you, acknowledging, right? The wisdom that we're getting, or the hit that we're getting, or just knowing, Dr. Pat, that we're not alone,
mm,
right? So I think that the synchronicities, that nagging voice, right? That doesn't let go, keeps on coming up in different ways. It's like when I just I've known that there was more for me to be doing in this world since 2000, probably since about 2002, 2003.
mhm,
And I kept on, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. But that voice of intuition did not let up.
right.
And so when the voice came up again, it's like, it's time, the time is now. Transitioning from my immigration law practice to becoming a life coach, like I knew who my mentor was, I knew the path that I had to take, but the time was now, and I had enough um images and just enough not hints, but just enough events in my life that made me know that this is the time, that it was time for me to move on, that the time was now. Sometimes it might just be the body sensations. Sometimes, again, the discernment, the power of these meditation, Dr. Pat, solitude, just listening, solitude, or just having that quiet time, setting a time for us to connect with our intuition. Sometimes when I get into my car, I'll say, all right, God, right, or the universe, where are we going today, right? It's like having that conversation. This is like our best friend, right? Intuition, it's our guide. It's always with us. So when we can learn to open up and to embrace that voice of intuition, the more we do that, the more open we become in terms of the channels that we become. When we ignore that still small voice, the consequences are that we become more disconnected,
Yeah,
and we start losing faith. And it doesn't work for me. I don't know. I don't, it's scary. And you share
it's
it with
scary.
people, like they think you're crazy. So just having the fear around it, sharing it with other people, and they say, "Oh, who do you think you are?" Right? So that fear comes in. I had a client that I was working with, and she would talk to me how she dealt with fear. She would like not let fear in. She was aware of fear, but every time that we got on the call, she'd say, "Tanusha, you won't believe what just happened." This was a lawyer. I mean, almost every time it's like, okay, I can't wait. This was a lawyer who used intuition in her practice. And she would say, you won't believe what just happened. And sure enough, she would have these amazing stories where her staff would come and say, we can't, this isn't going to work. Like it's not going to work. And she would say, don't say that. And she said, there is a way. And it's amazing. So I loved getting on my calls with her. Tanusha, you won't believe you won't believe what just happened. I get so excited just thinking about it that it's hard for me to put the words into out there. So that's being curious. Like what is there for me? What is there for me to learn here? Ask the questions. What is there for me in this?
Yeah.
Powerful.
I mean, and the reason we're doing this show, and I want to get back to it, is this notion of ignoring your intuition, ignoring that voice within, ignoring it because it's there for a reason. It's a guidance system. I want to also be very clear about something too, is this voice of intuition is not mean, it's not negative, it's not dark.
Mm.
It's not those things. It's not, it's expansive. It wants to accelerate us, to get us to the places and to get. When you hear those other voices, right?
I love that. If it's not
That's
light,
it. If it's
I
not
say
light,
that.
it's not right. And we know that in less than a second, don't we?
We do, but sometimes there's confusion even then, and there
That's
are
right.
practices and there are things that we can do. I think we
Tell
talked
us.
about this one other time, just like putting the two choices in your hands. This is one decision. It's either this one or it's this one, right? And putting those two decisions in your hand, like getting into a quiet space, grounding, taking a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth, and just connecting, feel that connection to the to that inner guidance system. And we have two decisions, right? Two choices, and just feel and just close your eyes and just, where is there more light? I am, and it'll come to you. You will see one either feels heavier or lighter, or one will have more light. The light will shine more brightly on one or the other. I'll never forget, Dr. Pat, I went to buy some shoes one time and I was looking at, no, of shoes, it was shoes. And I was doing this little exercise. I think I had a pendulum actually, right? Show me yes, show me no. And I was using the pendulum, and the guy said, "What in the world are you doing?" And I said, "I'm trying to decide. I like both these shoes. I don't want to get both of them I want, but I like both of them. And I just want to get some guidance as to which one to get." And he looked at me, said, "Okay." He was curious. And I used the pendulum, and if you're aligned, you can use the pendulum. And I got my answer. But you can also use just, where is there more light? And the more we do it, like with anything, Dr. Pat, the more we're attuned, the more we tune into that frequency, the more we are in tune, right, with
Yeah.
it.
It's really easy if we look, here's the thing. We're not saying that there aren't things that you need to ignore. That's not what we're
Oh
saying,
gosh, no.
but and can tell the difference. And I'm telling you, if it's light, it's right. And look, there's a 17-second rule. Ask yourself the question again. Should I go to the movies? Ask yourself every 17 seconds if you're not sure. But I love the rule of three, but when you keep getting back, yeah, go to movies. Yeah. I mean, if you keep getting an answer back, it doesn't take a lot. Now, some people just know, no, that's not right for me. I I said it just emphatic no the other day on a call to something, and I think everybody was shocked because I'm not known for that. I'm more known for let me think about it. But when I get a no, and it was to participate in a convention in Florida in October, and it was to participate and partner with these other groups of people. But when we heard what the proposal was, or lack thereof of a proposal, it was very clear to me. It was a big no. And, we got off the call, and I said, yeah, you know what? Two of the team members, I said, no, we're not going. It doesn't feel right. And unless it starts to feel right for me, I don't think it's worth our time and energy. We could do much more with those resources to help people in a different way. And I think people were shocked.
I love that. I love
They
that.
were like,
It's the awareness of our thoughts, right? Because our thoughts, we can control what we're thinking, but the awareness and what we're feeling and what we're thinking, because we think and then we have feelings based on those thoughts. And then we can act on those thoughts or we can ignore them. And I agree with you that tapping into your intuition may mean that you must pay attention to whatever is going on in this other part of your life. You paying attention to that voice that says, something's not right with my digestive system, right? And if I'm not listening to my intuition, it's going to start talking to me at night, and I'm going to start losing sleep, right? And so when we get busy minds, like just again, just to slow down, be curious. What here is seeking to emerge? So intuition really is that it's self-empowerment, it's self-awareness, and it's that internal guidance system. And the more we listen, the more we tune in, the clearer the channel becomes.
yeah.
So the more we use distraction and denial, I'm fine. And we know that we're not fine. Everything's going to be okay, but just flipping that out there. Like, no, that doesn't feel very comforting. I'm fine.
And
I'm
part of
good.
this, it's all good. I love that.
I'm good.
It's all good. Part
I'm
of this
good.
is a part two conversation that I hope we'll get to have. And that is, when do outside indicators hurt us and not help us?
Oh my,
What's a perfect example? I love Jack Canfield's and Mary Morrissey too. When your bank account is zero and you owe how much money? Maybe millions, maybe not. When you're getting ready to bankrupt your business, but you then pick yourself up and go to one last book publishing fair. That's Jack. One last publishing fair, 160 something rejections, and they pack themselves up, Mark and he. They go down to Florida. They go to this book fair. They walk through the whole book fair. Everybody's no chicken soup or the what? No. And on their way out, there's this little booth. And they're like, let's go talk to that guy. And they do. Lo and behold, that publisher publishes Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Dr. Pat, it was that voice that wouldn't give up.
Not his bank account, not on the verge of losing his business, not owing millions to people. You see, those are not deterrents. And so as we continue this conversation,
yes,
let's plan to help people get past what is in our world that is not of this world that we follow.
Dr. Pat, it's not our conditions. It's not our situations. It's not what's in the world of fact, right? We have facts. We have facts. But there's that power within us that is greater than any fact or situation or condition when we can tap into that inner power, which we're calling the whispers of the soul, right? Yeah. The intuition.
Thank you for today. Last message, and please give out your website. What do you want to leave us with today?
I'd love to leave everyone with Gandhi. The voice for truth is as loud as your willingness to listen. I love that. I love that.
I love it too.
So, yes, Donusia Lipinski. My website is Grace and Ease Life Coaching. You can reach me, you can text me a message and I'll get back to you. Leave me your phone number. I'm sorry, your email address and your number, 843-340-5083. You can also go to my website and schedule a consultation with me if you would like, and we will talk. I would love to invite you to expand. Listen to your intuition. If this inspires you, let's have a conversation. Let's lift the planet. Great to be with you, Dr. Pat.
Thank you. Thank you all for tuning us. Emily, thank you for pushing all the right buttons. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you for watching the Living Your Genius show, Unlocking Your Power Within, with me, Donusia Lipinski, and Dr. Pat on TransformationTalkRadio.com. We are here every fourth Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific for practical insights, inspiring stories, and actionable steps to unlock your full potential and manifest the life of your dreams. Your journey to living your genius awaits. For more information on how to design the life you deserve and unlock the power within to live a genius life, visit graceandeaselifecoaching.com. That's graceandeaselifecoaching.com. See you next time.